Let's look at position time graphs for uniform velocity. Position means a point in space, where something is. When we deal with linear motion, in other words motion on a straight line, then we can use the sign, plus or minus, of position to tell us which side of the reference point the object is. If we have horizontal motion, we could choose one side, for example right, to be positive and the other side, left, to be negative. If we take vertical motion, we could choose maybe up to be positive and down to be negative. So let's look at some position time graphs. We can also call them xt graphs. When the object moves at uniform velocity from the reference point away to the right, if we call the right positive, then the graph will look like this. If the object moves at uniform velocity from the reference point away to the left, if we choose left to be negative, then the graph will look like this. Let's demonstrate the motion of this kind of graph. Notice that the man is going to start at the point that we choose to be 0. We decide 0 point to be at the middle of this picture. We can decide 0 point to be wherever we like. Let's choose to the right of the reference point as positive, to the left negative. Notice how the man moves regularly, uniformly, away from the reference point, further and further to the right. Now let's illustrate this kind of graph. Again, the man starts at the reference point, the point we chose to be 0. This time, he moves to the negative position. His position becomes more and more negative. In other words, more and more left, because we chose to define negative as left, or left as negative. And he does so at a steady, at a uniform pace. How must the man move so that his motion can be described by this graph? We see he has to start to the left of his reference point, quite far to the left, and move regularly across the reference point as he moves further and further right. So let's see that. He starts at the left, regularly moves across the reference point and across to the right. What about this graph? Now he must start at the right, a few meters away from his reference point, regularly head left, cross the reference point, and then go further and further left, away from his reference point. And he ends a certain position quite far away from his reference point on the left side.